Good afternoon. This is Atmospheric Alex here, and welcome to another U.S. weather forecast outlook and discussion. And in today's video, we're going to be going over a very major winter storm that's going to be impacting the Northeast later on today. New York City could be getting quite a lot of snow and points just off to the north of that. Then later in the video, we're going to be going over the pattern change that could be occurring as we head into January and why January might be quite cold and snowy, though not exactly a forecast yet, but you have to wonder with how inaccurate some of the long range models have been so far this winter, if we could potentially see something go right under the radar. We're going to start off today's video by taking a look at our current analysis across the entire country. You can see we do have our massive system over here in the Northeast. You can see it bringing some moderate to heavy snow, but then a lot of freezing rain. Michigan, you have been seeing a ton of ice this morning, and going into Pennsylvania as well has been a little bit of freezing rain as well. And then back out to the west, we have continued to see a ton of activity. We actually had some tornado warnings yesterday in the San Francisco Bay Area region there, and then even a little bit further south, we had some other warnings as well. It has been very active out there. Very stormy. We've had upwards of 100-mile-an-hour winds along the coast. That is certainly not a good situation for you all, so I hope you all are staying very safe out there and very weather aware. But this will be moving out here as we go into tonight, thankfully. Here is our current alert map here. You can see we do have winter storm warnings for portions of the Northeast, winter weather advisories all throughout as well. And then, of course, we still have our flood warnings, our winter storm warnings, wind advisories is still super active in the West Coast. And that is something that will continue again through tonight, and then we'll calm down. Bit of a winter storm moving into portions of the Rockies as well, like Idaho, Wyoming, Utah, and Colorado. And that's going to be something we're going to be watching for a little bit, but you all are used to it, so probably not going to cover that much. Our winter storm currently moving across New York State, but look at all that freezing rain down there in Pennsylvania. Maybe not as much as forecasted, but still expecting a quarter of an inch, maybe almost a half an inch in some areas. That's what we'll watch for. As we go into later this afternoon, we're going to see a little bit of a band of snow move through New York City, but it really isn't going to be until this evening when things ramp up fast out there. You could see moderate to heavy snow across a very large portion here. Syracuse, Utica, Albany, Bridgeport, New York, lots of snow falling. It is going to be absolutely festive out there, and this arrived a day too late. It'd be great if it happened yesterday during Christmas, but yeah, I guess didn't want to give you all White Christmas for some reason. We have an all-out sleet storm going on in eastern Pennsylvania. That is going to be very hazardous out there. Then your snow continues across your entire New England area. Maybe some sleet mixing in down near New York. I actually think we could see a little more sleet than forecasted down there. I'm going to have to go over why in a little bit here. You can see our snow continuing, and then finally by tomorrow morning, the last few flakes will fall. And that concludes that major storm system. So if you all love the snow, if you all love the winter weather vibes, well, you're going to enjoy this system tonight. We're going to get into something a little bit more advanced now. So we're going to go ahead and pull a couple of forecast soundings here from our HRRR model to kind of figure out why is there sleet, why is there freezing rain, and most importantly, why is there snow, and how can I get snow? I mean, you can't just ask. I mean, Mother Nature's going to do whatever she wants to do, but still you get the point. So we're going to go ahead and pull a sounding here. You can see you have all this colder air here, and you're thinking, well, Alex, it should be snowing, right? It's 31 degrees. It's so cold outside. I can barely stand out there for 10 minutes. Feels like the Arctic Circle. It's gotta snow. That's not how that works at all right? Let's pull a quick little sounding here and explain as to why. So I hope you all can follow along with me here because it gets a little bit confusing. What you need to know is these are the temperatures down here in degrees Celsius. So I want you all to pay attention to this right here, 0 degrees Celsius. Why is that? Because in Fahrenheit, that is 32 degrees. That's the freezing point, right? So if you want wintry precipitation, 32 degrees is basically going to be your savior, right? As you can see as we go up with height, so right over here, these are your pressure lines, and you can see in kilometers here, here are your heights. So as we go up into your atmosphere, your pressure will drop. That's basically how it works, right? And you could see here we're going higher up because we're gaining kilometers. 1 kilometer, 3 kilometers, 6 kilometers. You get the idea, basically multiple miles up in the air. And this is a skew T chart. So this line right here is going to be slanted on its side. So all of this right here, this blue line, that is going to be 32 degrees Fahrenheit, right? So you can go ahead and see that there. In our red line here, this is our actual temperature as we go up with height. And then in our green line, this is our actual dew point as we go up with height. And so what you also need to know is when they're touching, like right here, this is called saturation. So this is how you basically get your clouds to form, all that good stuff. So as we pay attention to this here with our red line, you could see we do go above freezing for quite a long period of time here and quite a large portion of your lower level atmosphere, and it's very saturated. So this is definitely going to be some rain right here. But then as we go towards the surface, it tries to refreeze. But it takes too long to refreeze, and what happens is you still have your rain coming down, and at the surface, we have temperatures at 28 degrees Fahrenheit. So when your rain, basically your unfrozen water droplets, if you will, hit the ground, it'll freeze on contact. This is exactly why we're talking about freezing rain, and exactly why we may talk about some sleet mixed in as well, because notice how it doesn't go below freezing right at the surface. It's a little bit above the surface, right? Around 1 kilometer above the surface is, if you kind of extrapolate it here, that is when it goes below freezing. So it has a little bit of time to freeze. Not enough, though. Now then, as we forward the clock even more here, we're going to go ahead and take a sounding right here. This is going to be in the middle of your sleet area. And you could see things are already looking a lot different. You could see our temperatures do go above freezing briefly, but it's only around 33 to 34 degrees, so you're not going to see much melting here. And all the melting you do see is actually going to occur a little higher up in the atmosphere, and we go below freezing a lot faster. So before we went back below freezing at 1 kilometer. Now we're going back below freezing at 2 kilometers, all right? So this gives it a lot more time to refreeze, and all of your unfrozen water droplets will refreeze into ice pellets, like little ice balls kind of raining down from the sky. This is exactly why we're talking about sleet. You can see it is below freezing for a long enough period of time in our low-level atmosphere, so it refreezes pretty quickly. And so sleet pellets is what you get at 25 degrees Fahrenheit, which is below freezing, which is going to cause a lot of problems on your roadways, because all this is going to be freezing on contact, and all your frozen stuff is already frozen on contact, because guess what? It's already frozen, right? If you get the idea. That is something to look at there, and you can see it's all saturated, so this is going to be a ton of sleet pounding down. A very dangerous situation out there. Now, this is the easiest sounding of all. This is your snow sounding, and you could tell because it doesn't go above freezing at all, right? Look at that. Far enough away from that blue line, it is all below freezing throughout the entire cold air column, so it falls as snow. Very heavy snow. This is very saturated right here. So that is definitely going to lead to some pretty large flakes as well. But we are going to see occasional mixing issues in New York City. As we pull another sounding right over New York City, this is going to be tonight, you can see it does get a little bit confusing. This does look like snow all the way down, though. On the precipitation type, it did look like sleet. If you do get heavy enough precipitation rates, it will all be snow guaranteed. Here's a sounding I just pulled not far up the road from New York City. This is going to be around 7 to 9 p.m. tonight. Notice how we do have a very brief period where temperatures in your low levels do briefly go above freezing. It can go above freezing even by just 1 degree, and that will throw the entire forecast off. It will. Because what's going to happen, you're going to see a little bit of melting right here, and then the quick refreeze. Your raindrops are not going to turn back into snowflakes, they're going to turn into sleet pellets. So that's why we're trying to figure out a lot of things when it comes to tonight's forecast, where we could potentially see a little bit of sleet from time to time. That is something to watch. But in downtown New York City, I was pulling a few other soundings kind of off camera there. It does appear that maybe they will be okay and maybe it'll stay all snow. You do have a lot of rapid warming, a bit of a warm air inversion, but it doesn't go above freezing from the soundings that I pulled. So I'm starting to think that, yeah, maybe New York could stay all snow after all, and that would be some good news for you snow lovers. Now, I hope that segment didn't bore you all. I'm going to have to cut a lot of it out and just kind of make sure I shorten it. We're going to take a look at our snowfall totals now from the National Weather Service, and you can see definitely a lot of snow is expected for New York State here. 9 to 10 inches in that swath right there of dark blue. As we head on down to New York City itself, around 6 to 7 inches is expected. Pretty much the same deal on Long Island as well. Could see some mixing issues right along the shores. Temperatures are a bit warmer over the water at this time of year. And then really all other areas as well as we go into Connecticut, around 4 to 6 inches, portions of Massachusetts. You can basically see the little indicator there going across the screen, basically how much snow you could get. Freezing rain is a big concern. We're probably seeing around a 1/4 inch of ice here across portions of Michigan as we flip on over to Pennsylvania. Again, around a 1/4 inch. Maybe isolated 1/2 inch locations, but it looks like it's downtrended a bit. That is some very good news, but we are definitely talking about some concerns out on the roadways this morning and this afternoon. Now, after that long deep dive of a discussion, we'll head into another deep dive, but again, definitely I gotta trim some of this out of the video or it's gonna wind up way too long for the situation we're dealing with. I mean, it's a pretty significant winter storm, but we've seen stuff like this before. There's no need to go a whole 30 minutes on this video. We're gonna take a look here at our European model, kind of look at our temperatures across the entire US, just kind of briefly here. You can see our warm up here that does continue, temperatures in the 70s, even some 80s down there in Texas. Goodness, it feels like summer, doesn't it? As we continue through time, you can see another brief warm up as we go into the 28th, right within there, but we're going to follow it up by a pretty significant blast of cold air. This is going to set the stage for our massive pattern change into the month of January. You can see it punching on down south rapidly. Overnight lows, take a look at this, in the teens across a lot of areas. We're kind of sick and tired of that, aren't you? We had to deal with that a lot, earlier on in December, so kind of unfortunate we're seeing it again. Portions of Tennessee roughly going to be in the low 20s throughout the entire state. Not really that great. I don't like the cold weather, but I do love the snow. And cold, dry air, no bueno for me. I don't really like it. You could see temperatures in the teens across your plateau, across your mountains. You get the idea. Temperatures below zero, again, up there for Minnesota and Wisconsin. But you can see as cold air does hang around. Look at an even more significant blast of cold air. Negative 20 degrees for portions of Minnesota. Bundle up there if you possibly can. Then maybe following up by a brief warm up around the 4th to the 5th of January, but we're trying to get a little far out in time. And then more cold air behind that. And I don't want to get too detailed here, but we're probably going to see a cold dominated pattern as we go into January with a couple stray warm ups every now and then. Kind of looking at our precipitation chart here from our European model, you can see a pretty big storm system, maybe some severe weather being possible, but very marginal chances. Let's take a look down here. A possible sneaker snowstorm here for portions of West Texas and southern New Mexico. This by no means is a forecast, not a forecast, but is possible. You see a lot of what they would say cold air damming down here in this region here, a lot of surface cold air that is going to be present down near El Paso there, but we really don't know yet, right? It's very uncertain. But taking it out through time, you can see some clipper systems riding through our cold air supply, more energy out there in the Rockies, maybe some more systems up north. But once again, this is going to be a fairly cold and dry air mass for now. Could we see something sneak in? Possibly. But really, it's going to be after January, I'd say 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th, where we're going to see a lot more moisture be introduced. And we could see a very large storm system, not a forecast, maybe 10 days from now, bringing strong winds, to portions of Tennessee, and then a major winter storm on this model. According to the model, I am not saying this is going to happen, but we've been seeing some trends towards a larger storm system cutting across your central US. But we need to take a look at a much broader scale of things here. We're going to take a look at your upper air pattern here from your European model and then your ensemble. You can see this is kind of confusing as of right now. We're currently in a negative North Atlantic oscillation here. We have a lot of higher pressures building up here into portions of Greenland. I'll say this is a bit more off to the east, and then you could see in tandem our cold air supply kind of coming down like this through here. But what we really want to see is this high pressure area to move further off to the west, which would cause our cold air supply to do something like this. Are we going to see that on our models? In fact, we are, at least on the models we will. We're going to take it out through time here, and later in late December, you can see this is actually starting to shift a lot further off to the west. Not far enough just yet, but you can see our first push of cold air supply coming down like this big old troughing system like this. And that is going to cause a lot of lake effect snow in the northeast, but it's not going to do much for the southeast or even the southern US just yet. But as we continue and we go into early January, so we ring in the new year, and we see our blocking up here, our high pressure moving a lot further to the west, right here, and it's trending all the way out here. So this is a very large North Atlantic oscillation, a very negative phase of it, and that is actually going to push a lot of cold air to its south and cause a ton of back building to occur. And now you can see our large-scale troughing is this entire area here. Lots of cold air spilling down into the eastern US and into the southern US. Now, taking that and continuing that through, it even strengthens further. And take a look at this. Arctic air could potentially set up a lot further to the west, and we really begin to dig that troughing to the east. Do we see any energy from the Pacific? We do have a little bit of a blob right here. Could this potentially move like this and interact with a lot of cold air, causing a snowstorm? We don't think so just yet. But remember, we're looking a bit far out in time and things have been trending all over the place. You can see we do have that piece of energy kind of get scooped up in this trough here, but at this point, we're a little bit too far out to tell all the details. I guess you could say maybe a brief warm-up after the New Year's, but then things could trend a lot colder again. Our ensemble guidance shows roughly the same thing. You could see our negative North Atlantic oscillation, and that actually pushes off to the west, and significant blocking does occur. Look at this. I mean, we're talking about a massive block up here, which means all your cold air is going to have to go around it, and that is why we are seeing a pattern such as this. You saw all of our cold air going over here before, but that has shifted a lot further to the west through due time. Any pieces of energy out here will cause a snowstorm in a pattern like this. You could see our 3 model run trend here. You can see our blocking pattern has been shifting further off to the west and has been strengthening. You can see it was red and now it's pink up here. You can see our trough dig has actually shifted off to the southwest like this quite a lot more. Very significant jump there, and I expect this to continue over the next few days, and this trough will likely continue shifting off to the west, and our snow chances will actually continue to climb. Whether or not we see anything for the southern US, I really don't think so, but there's been a few whispers. We'll have to wait and see. And just one more thing, we're going to take a look at our GEFS ensemble temperatures here. This is going to be your low-level temperatures. You can see your first big cold front moving in, but what I really need to focus on is the end of the model run. I use a little bit of a tool for the winter season here. You could see how our temperatures here, our freezing temperatures, begin pushing further off to the south towards the end of our run here. Look at this. I mean, we're talking about our 0-degree line going all the way down here into Tennessee. That's pretty far south. What I really want to focus on, though, is this line right here, our negative 2 degrees Celsius line. This is actually kind of quite important when it comes to snowy weather, and we want to see this line really far south. If you remember last year, we had this line going all the way down here. quite the sight to see on a model. And we actually had our third contour of blue going kind of like this. And if you all remember the amount of snow the South saw last year, that should give you a hint, right? So what I'm really watching for here is a trend. Can we get this -2 degrees Celsius line to move much further off to the south? You know, the last few model runs have suggested that it is quickly shifting that way, and that is due to increased blocking, you know, way up north there, our negative North Atlantic oscillation taking place, all your cold air being shoved down south. That is exactly what's happening here. And if we can continue seeing this blue line drop, maybe all the way down to here, our snow signal is going to explode on our long range guidance. It's what happened last year, and I wouldn't be shocked if it happens this year as well. That's something we need to watch out for. I guess I should say next year. This is 2026, right? The new year is coming. And European weeklies have already been responding to this change here. Our snow line has been shifting a lot further off to the south in recent model runs, and you can already see here, look at West Tennessee, around a 3-inch snow mean, East Tennessee around a 3.5 to 4-inch snow mean. It was a little bit more intense last year, but it is already starting to look a lot similar in nature, and I really do think that models are going to continue trending colder and snowier as we head into January. I do think this could be quite a snowy January coming up. I actually kind of predict that at this point, but the real question is, how snowy does it get? That is what we are all trying to figure out, but I do expect this signal to continue intensifying through time, as our models have been really trying to warm things up and have been proven wrong around 5 times this winter already. I mean, they've been absolutely clueless, right? So who's to say that they're not going to be clueless again and we get a big snow signal for areas abnormally far south like last year? But with that being said, thank you all so much for tuning into today's video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please be sure to smash that like button, subscribe to my little corner of the weather community, share this video with friends and family on social media, and even leave a comment in the section below, you know, if you enjoyed the video, or if you thought the in-depth discussion was a little bit too much for you, because this does get quite confusing after a while, I'd imagine, for some. That said, have a wonderful afternoon and evening, everyone. I hope to see you all back here tomorrow, as I should be able to upload tomorrow evening, 8 p.m. regular time.